Hello there and welcome to Impact Stories on AAU Television. AAU TV, the voice of higher education in Africa. Today we are on the program celebrating academic mentors, and I am the host of the program. My name is Ransford Bekoe. Follow us to the campus of Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Kumasi, which is in the heart of Ghana, where I have identified a celebrant on my program celebrating academic mentors. Follow this discussion on our social media handles, on Facebook, on YouTube, or on Twitter, and on our dedicated website, tv.aau.org. Before I introduce the guest for the program, let's go for a short break. Stay tuned in.
One of the universities set up in our pre-independence era, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Our international reputation has and continues to soar as a reference point in matters of science and technology, research and education. We believe that the future belongs to those who have sound technology acumen.
I love UST.
I love KNUST.
Welcome back, viewers, from the short break. Like I said earlier, we are on the campus of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and I am privileged to host a former Vice Chancellor of this university. Prof, welcome to AAU Impact Stories.
Thank you very much.
You look good, Prof.
Well, thanks.
Despite your age.
Yes, yes.
Good exercising?
Well, I do work a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Prof, this is AAU Impact Stories, and this season is dedicated to celebrating academic mentors all over Africa, and we are privileged to host you on this program.
It's also a privilege for me to be hosted by your program, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Prof. From your very impressive CV, I have seen that religion plays a very influential role in your upbringing. Can you let us know the role of Presbyterianism in your upbringing as a young professor, a young Kwasi Adarkwa?
Thank you very much. I've attended a number of Presbyterian schools in Ghana, and rather unfortunately, that is what has influenced me in terms of discipline, hard work, and all the other ethos of life. So I think that the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, for that matter, has influenced me to a very great extent.
Okay. Now, can you tell us a little bit about your childhood, growing up, where you started life, up to your secondary school education level?
All right. As you saw, I was born on the 16th of December, 1951, at Aburi in the eastern region of Ghana. Aburi is about 50 kilometers northeast of Accra, and I started my schooling at the Police Depot Primary School, where I did P1 or Primary 1 to Primary 6. And because my father was a police officer, just after, at the middle of class 6, we were transferred to Kuforidua. And Kuforidua, I attended the Methodist Primary School there for about a term, following which I did the entrance exam and went to Aburi Presbyterian Boys Middle Boarding School at the time. Okay. I spent 2 years there up to 64, and from there I went into Infante School in Cape Coast, where I spent 7 years. I did the O-level and A-level there, and after that I came to KNUST. At the time it was called University of Science and Technology. Okay. From the University of Science and Technology, I went to University of British Columbia in Vancouver, Canada, for a master's degree program. And after that, I went to Michigan State University for the PhD.
Wow, that is impressive. Okay, now when you went to Infante School, what were your career ambitions then?
Thank you. When I went to Infante, again, as I said, I've been influenced by my father being a police officer. Okay. We kept traveling, and I remember in Kuforidua, one of the kids of one inspector, he was a tailor. He went into a technical school and did quantity surveying.
Okay.
And the impression he gave us was that anytime you saw a building, you could look at the building and give out the cost. So that influenced me to a very large extent. And so after Infante, I came to UST, or University of Science and Technology, hoping to do building technology, because in this university, they have an option under building technology called quantity surveying.
Okay.
But at A-level, I did geography, economics, and maths. And at the time, one had to do physics, chemistry, and maths to get into building technology. And so from that point of view, I was excluded. Wow. So virtually, I was forced into planning. And with the geography, economics, and maths, it was a very useful option too. And I've not regretted it since then.
Wow. That's a great shift.
Yes, a very great shift.
Okay.
From a mathematical-based discipline to something virtually in the social sciences.
Okay. So how long did it take you to complete your first degree at UST?
The first degree was 4 years.
4 years.
Between 71 and 75.
Okay. So when you completed the first degree, why did you not continue with your master's here on campus, but you opted to go to Vancouver, Canada?
Yeah. At the time, the postgraduate programs were not well developed here.
Okay.
And we had also a link arrangement with the University of British Columbia, the School of Community and Regional Planning. Right. They sent us lecturers here to teach, and some of our lecturers were also trained there. So they thought that the tradition must continue. And therefore, it was very easy for me to get to UBC. Okay. And when I got to British Columbia, it was virtually like KNUST, or UST at the time. Very little change. And therefore, I was able to do the master's program rather quickly. Okay. But following the master's degree, there was no funding for me. So I had to come home for about 4 months, look around to see if I could be successful. And after that, I had the Ghana government scholarship and went back to do the PhD degree program at the University of Michigan State University in East Lansing in Michigan.
Okay. So you traversed Ghana, Canada, US. And then why did you not stay? Because I believe that the job trappings out there was more attractive than coming back to Ghana.
That may be true. But at the time, I stayed for about a year. My professor had a consultancy in, I think, Bolivia. Okay. So he had to go, and the condition for me to graduate was that after graduation, stay back and teach the courses that the professor was teaching. Okay. So I taught students, graduate students, in urban planning and landscape architecture for about a year, and then following which I came back. And I came back not because of anything in particular, but I had family here, I was the firstborn, and I had a lot of responsibility on me. If I had stayed back, I think I would have come back and they would have been worse off. I would have seen them worse off. So I had to come, put a few things right, push a few of them into different schools, so they can, in future, they can also have something to depend on. So that was the major reason for coming back to Ghana.
Okay. Viewers, I'm talking to Professor Adarkwa, former Vice Chancellor of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And he has just given us a background as to how he was brought up to the level where he had studied up to his PhD level and has returned. Let's go for a short break. And when we come back, we'll continue the discussion. Stay tuned in.
Are you an institution or individual? Do you intend to organize a memorable event to be archived for future reference? Then look no further than AAU Studios, because it's your best bet. With our spacious studio and state-of-the-art media equipment such as 4K Panasonic video cameras, KinoFlow lights, assorted microphones, live streaming machines, and others, you are sure to get the best of production. Visit us at Trinity Avenue, East Legon, adjacent the National Accreditation Board, or contact the AAU Studio via the following addresses: info@aau.org, AAUTV@aau.org, Ransford@aau.org. Alternatively, you can call us on 0244 185 998 or 0244 693 342.
Okay, Prof. So when you completed your PhD and you came to Ghana, you were employed by University of Science and Technology.
That's right.
Were there other employment avenues prior to that?
Yes, there were a few. One was to go into consultancy.
Okay.
And at the time, I declined that because one needed a lot of money or capital to get into consultancy.
Okay.
And then secondly, I could have also gone to the Building and Road Research Institute, where the late Dr. DeGraff Johnson actually gave me an employment because he's also an old boy.
Okay.
And so looking around, I thought that perhaps the best place would be to come back and teach. Okay. Even though I didn't like teaching so much, but I was forced to come and teach here. And then, of course, I could have gone to the civil service. But I felt that teaching would be much, much, much better than any of the others.
Okay. So you got employed here as an academic tutor. Or prior to that, there were other small consultancies that were doing?
No, I will explain that in a few minutes.
Okay.
I was employed here as a university teacher. University teacher, you start off from a lecturer. As a lecturer, you move on to a senior lecturer, associate professor, and professor.
Right.
So that is what I've gone through.
Okay.
And whilst you are here, it's also possible for you to do consultancy assignments.
Right.
So I've done some work for the World Bank, the UN, the Food and Agricultural Organization in Rome, and a number of them.
Okay.
So that is the one advantage of being here. Yeah. You could teach. And you see, it's important because when you teach and you do research, the research fits into your teaching. Right. And the teaching also enhances your research, your publications. Right. And so that is the advantage of teaching in a tertiary institution in Ghana. Right.
So in your research, were you researching based on identified problems, or it was donor-driven research that you normally engage yourself in?
That's a very good question. Initially, when I came, I thought it was too early to branch off into a specialization. Okay. So what I did was to do research into planning and development problems generally. Okay. And Habitat in Nairobi was very, very useful because then they gave us assignments which we had to do on Ghana. Some of them were comparative studies between Ghana and some other Latin American countries, and Uganda and Kenya. So that was the nature of assignment that I've handled. We've had time also, and then perhaps as I grew in academia, then the specialization popped up. Okay. Because then I had the opportunity to do a lot of work in transportation. Rural transportation first, and urban transportation, and then regional transportation. Okay. Now, as I speak to you now, because of that expertise, where I'm currently working on the Ghana-Burkina Faso interconnectivity project. I'm sure you've heard about it. Yeah. The two governments have come together, and they intend to build 1,200 kilometers long of railway, somewhere from around Mpakadang, next to Akosombo, all the way to Burkina Faso. We'll go through Hohoi, Jasekang, Ahamasu, Nkwanta, all the way to Yendi. And then when we get to Yendi, we'll move westwards to Tamale and join the track from Tamale all the way to Paga and then to Waga.
Oh, okay. You specialize in transport, but then you also have another hat, which is land use. What is the correlation between the transport and the land use specialization?
You're forcing me to give you a lecture. But ideally, transportation is a function of land use. Okay. Without land use, there'll be no need for people to move. All right. And that is where the two connect. And when you're doing planning, land use becomes very, very important. Right. Land use simply means the type of human activities that are based on land. So there are places where we sleep, there are places where we work, where we play, where we recreate ourselves, and so on and so forth. If all these human activities could take place on one piece of land, there will be no need for travel. Right. But unfortunately, that is not the case. Some of the uses are incompatible with others. For example, you can't locate an industry close to where you stay because the implications could be adverse. And that gives rise to transportation. And that is why transport and land use are closely related.
Okay, thank you very much. Now let's come back to Professor Adarkwa as a lecturer up to when you became the Vice Chancellor. As Provost, were you having any leadership, the university leadership position in mind?
No. I think if you talk to a lot of people, they'll tell you that nobody comes here to become a vice chancellor. You develop your career as the years unfold.
Okay.
And therefore, if you look at my track history, I've been an examination coordinator, from where I became head of the Department of Planning, and then I became the dean of this faculty.
Okay.
From the deanship, then I went on to become a pro-vice chancellor of the university for 2 terms. And at that point in time, it was clear that perhaps I should move on to become the vice chancellor. So I applied, and God being so good, I was successful and became the vice chancellor of KNUST between 2006 to 2010.
Congrats.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Whose cap did you wear, or whose foot did you wear to become a vice chancellor of this university?
Okay. Thank you once again. Almost directly, I followed the late Professor K. Andam.
Okay.
Andam was then the Dean of Engineering, and he had a very good exposure. And so what he did was, when he became Vice Chancellor, I served under him as Pro-Vice Chancellor.
Okay.
So virtually, I learned the ropes with the help of Professor Andam.
Okay.
When he traveled, I had to act for him. He gave us that self-confidence.
Right.
And so, anyway, I'm sure you heard about the fact that at the point in time, KNUST was ranked very highly on the web,
Yes.
in Africa and the world. It was primarily because of Professor Andam. So I followed his footsteps, and when I applied, I had to go tell him. He said, okay, just go and let's see what happens. And when I went, I was selected as the Vice Chancellor. And therefore, all the things I learned from Professor Andam had to virtually fit into those shoes. They were fairly big, fairly large, but I had to fit into them. Continued from where he left off, and I had added on a number of other initiatives here on campus KNUST.
Okay. Can you just list 1 or 2 of these initiatives, just for the records?
Okay. When you leave this place and you're going back to engineering, at the traffic light on your immediate right, or we would say on the northwestern part of the traffic light, you see a hall called Destiny Hall, Examinations Hall. Okay. I brought it. Close to that, I built it during my time. Close to that, you'll also see Pajo Sports Stadium. The tartan tracks and the development of the stadium eventually to what you see now was done during my tenure of office. And there are a number of them all around campus. If you go to Queen's Hall, just opposite, between Queen's Hall and the library, there's a place they call the Royal Parade Ground. Yes. I forced the thing to be designed in this college. It was built and supervised with the Director of Works and Physical Development Office, and the consultants were virtually from this college. So there are a number of them as you go around campus. You see the plaques all listed around. In fact, this building and the other building around here were all done during my tenure of office.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you once more.
Yes, okay. And as Vice Chancellor, do you think that the 1 term of office, the 4-year term of office was enough for you to have completed your vision for the university?
Thanks once more. Clearly, 1 term, just like being a president of a country, 1 term may not be enough. And that is where planning comes in. So when you've planned what you want to do, the time horizon is simply 4 years. If you are lucky and you extend it, then you bring in a lot of other things. But I think that given what I set out to do, what I told council and what I told the search committee I was going to do, I think that I was able to do a number of them, virtually all of them. Okay. And that's why I say planning is important. So after that, then there was no need to crave for an extension, because I felt that what I'd done was enough, given what I set out to do.
Everything rises and falls with leadership. So in your tenure as Vice Chancellor, were there any cons, I mean, some disadvantages that you had to encounter? For instance, like student or faculty strike or other issues, and how did you manage to overcome these ones?
Okay. Luckily for me, during my time, there were not too many of those instances. But I remember one occasion where 2 student groups were fighting, and a lecturer went to separate them. Unfortunately for the lecturer, he was slapped by the student. So the matter came before me, and as you know, they were all waiting for me. The committee had finished its work, the report was before me, and so on and so forth. So what I did was to consult widely. Some of the consultations didn't matter too much, because I knew what I wanted to do, but I had to be seen to be consulting. So the next morning I came and said the students should be dismissed. it was important to bring peace in here, because if I hadn't done that, the lecturers or UTAG was going to get on me. And if I let the student go away, UTAG will get on me, as I said. But if I had punished the lecturer, I didn't act it, then it was also going to be had very wide implications. So the guy was in third year, but he had to be dismissed. And I instructed the registrar to dismiss him. I felt extremely bad, but that was so there will be discipline and order on campus. That was one of the situations. From the side of lecturers, there wasn't too much. I mean, we all colleagues. I could attend their meetings and so on and so forth, so there wasn't so much. But what I did, and I think for me it was very painful as a parent, I virtually would say I regretted. But no, for discipline to prevail, the young man had to be dismissed. He was a very excellent student, first-class student. But how can you slap a lecturer, your own lecturer, and then the following Monday or Tuesday he stands before you to teach you? It's never done anywhere on this earth.
Okay, discipline prevailed. Viewers, this is AAU Academic Mentorship Program, and the title is Celebrating Academic Mentors. I've been talking to Professor Adarkwa, who is a former Vice-Chancellor of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. We're going for a short break, so don't turn your dial.
One of the universities set up in our pre-independence era, the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Our international reputation has and continues to soar as a reference point in matters of science and technology, research and education. We believe that the future belongs to those who have sound technology acumen.
I love UST.
I love KNUST.
Welcome back all. This is AAU Impact Stories, and I'm talking to Professor Kwasi Adarkwa, former Vice-Chancellor of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Prof, before we went on a break, we were talking about your academic life. Now let's digress a bit and let's come to your religious life. As a Presbyterian, you have held several positions in the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, especially in the Men's Fellowship. Can you tell us a bit about your role here in the Men's Fellowship and any initiative that you might have undertaken whilst you served as the president?
Thank you. Generally, I think a lot of people have the perception, wrong notion, that once you're an academic, your social life doesn't matter. I totally disagree with them. And as you said, the first time I went into a Men's Fellowship meeting and wore their attire, I looked rather strange. Because here I was, for all intents and purposes, very successful academic. And then what business you have in religion? But as I said, I disagreed. And so I started from the local congregation here on campus, went through became the president of the Men's Fellowship local on campus. From there, I progressed to become the president of the Asante Presbytery Men's Fellowship. Now, during our time, the initiatives we held were many, and what we needed to do was to encourage membership.
Okay.
Encourage membership and then to stabilize the group, because I remember one of our pastors said anytime he came around the church building and he saw 2 or 3 people sitting in a corner somewhere, then it meant the Men's Fellowship were meeting. Telling us that the membership was very low.
Yeah.
So that is what we did.
Okay.
And then later on, we started encouraging some of the other congregations close to Kumasi, on me, Esianim, Pong, Kwaso, and so on. That is what we did.
Okay.
And so I'm happy to say that now those congregations have very good and very active functioning Men's Fellowship. Of course, the attendance would vary, but generally, the membership now is fairly good.
Munsru, thank you. Now, on the broader scale, you have also served the Presbyterian Church of Ghana, and you were the chairman of its strategic planning committee. What was the strategic direction of the plan?
All right. Thank you once again. Essentially, at the point when we did that, strategic planning had become a vogue, and most other people knew, for us, we knew the importance. So we got together and spoke to the moderator and felt that the church had lived for several years. We just celebrated 130th or so anniversary. And I think that at the time, it became so obvious that we needed a sense of direction. Right. And therefore, what the church agreed for us to do was for them to nominate 2 people each from all the presbyteries. And we met in Abetifi for, I think, close to 3 weeks or so. And the idea was for us to get them to understand what is meant by strategic planning, so they could go back and could bring appropriate data for us to begin to fashion out one such document for the church. And therefore, we look at all the aspects of the church, its future, what the strengths of the church were at the time, what our weaknesses were, what the opportunities we had at the time were, and indeed, there were some major threats. So we looked at all these things, consulted widely, and then brought them together, held a consultation with a larger group, and then they made some useful comments, following which we finalized the document for implementation. And so that was the essence, to give the church a sense of direction, use our resources a bit more well, in a more meaningful and more efficient manner, and also make sure that we enhance the membership drive that we had all followed.
Was it a first strategic plan of the church?
Yes, to my limited knowledge, I think it was a first strategic plan of the church. But now I hear it's been revised, and it's been revised, and it's been revised.
Okay. Beyond developing or helping develop the strategic plan, you played a key role in the establishment of the Presbyterian University College. So can you tell us a little bit about what roles that you played in there?
Okay, thank you. In establishing the University College, first, conceptually, it wasn't possible for us to get one campus. And therefore, the idea of a multi-campus university came into being. And of course, when you talk about multi-campus university, then it comes along with the disciplines that we're going to be taught. And right away, if you look at Agogo, because of the hospital, it's been there since, I think, 1931. And therefore, we had built up enough synergies there. So logically, it had to be the nursing school and the one for physician assistants. And then we're left with Tema. Tema, being a commercial center, we thought that the MBA programs and the BBA programs would be very appropriate there. So they took that on. And then we're left with Nkrumah. And Nkrumah, given what we saw at the time, we felt that environmental studies and some of the other softer art programs could also be located there. So this was the rationale we followed. And at the time, my major concern had to do with the location of the university and how the various parts came together. And so we're concerned about locating the university on virtually a flat terrain so that costs could be minimized. And with my background, this was something that I was able to advise to a very large extent. I also was able to convince a few people to go and teach. I was held up here. Otherwise, it would have been a very good place to go and retire.
As Vice Chancellor, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Right. Now, with the Presby Church, you also have served on the board of several other educational institutions. Can you mention about 2 or 3 of these? Okay,
I'll give you a bonus. I'll mention a few. I've served as chairman of the University College of Agricultural and Environmental Studies in Bunsu. I've served as the chairman of the Kesman University College. I've also served as chairman of St. Margaret's University College. And at the point in time, I was a board member of the Regent University College of Science and Technology in Accra. I've also served as a member of some other university colleges in Ghana. At the time when they were coming up, they needed to rely on some expertise, people who knew how to run universities. And that is how come I went around all these university colleges.
The various governments that Ghana has ever had, are they tracking your records? Because we are looking for a national recognition of Professor Kwasi Adarkwa.
Yes, I'll say yes, because I think around 2009, 2010, I was awarded Order of the Volta. So I have been recognized. If there's something else to come, I'm unable to tell. But if it comes, I'll welcome it.
Congratulations. That is the highest award
Yes.
Ghana ever confers on its citizens.
Yeah, that's in your officer division.
In the officer division. Yeah. Okay, congrats, Prof.
Thank you.
Now, you have so many consultancies going on. You are blending that with academic life, you're blending that with teaching. How do you blend all of these and you still keep going as a strong man?
Good, thank you once more. It's a very simple solution. I remember Professor Boateng advised me, the late Professor Boateng, EA, and the Samana Boateng. He advised me, and the advice was that now that you've joined the club, learn to lose some sleep.
Please, what is the club?
The club being that you become a professor.
Okay.
So at the point in time, I felt, well, I mean, what can I do? How can I do this? But gradually, as the assignments come, you learn how to do them naturally. So from the classroom, you need to come back, revise your notes. You need to look at your consultancy reports, those that are due. If you have public engagements, you look at them and attend all of them. And I think that it's all to do with time management. Okay? I could spend 3-4 hours standing somewhere chatting, but that's not very useful. It's not productive. But if you know you have deadlines, you'll be forced to act accordingly and use your time more profitably.
Okay, that's a very good piece of advice. Okay. It looks like a professor who never publishes would never become a very good professor. And I know you have...
No, let's go back a little bit.
Okay.
A lecturer who doesn't publish is unlikely to become a good professor. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have a count of your numerous publications?
Yes, I do. When I came back from the Vice Chancellor's office to join the department, we did 2 books on Kumasi. Sorry, 1 book on Kumasi first and 1 on Ghana.
Okay.
In the first book, we're looking at Kumasi as a planning unit.
Right.
And what we did was we had contributions from a number of people and we edited them, and KMA bought the thing off. So I'm hoping that they're still using it. But the data may be a bit old now, about 10 years, no, 9 years. Okay. But the concepts are still very valid. Following that, we also did another book on human settlements and service delivery in Ghana. Right. What we were looking was to take stock of all the services in all towns in Ghana and to see which were lacking where and what can be done. So that's also another volume. In addition, there are a lot of other articles which are directed at public policy. Right. Okay, so the most recent one I can remember is the one we did on the transportation of hazardous materials from Tema to the hinterland. As you remember, hazardous material, we're talking about paint, petrol, diesel, LPG. When they are being transported, ideally they should have gone by the rail, but because the rail is not working, they come by road. It can be very dangerous. If you remember Kwawuda Junction, a few years ago, an articulated tanker went into a church building, set it on flames. So that is what we're doing, and we are alerting the assemblies around the area to become a bit more sensitive to such dangers. So that is what I've done in the recent past. And then, of course, with the PhD chaps I'm supervising, they run a lot of publications. Okay, so that is added to that. But before then, I had a number on rural roads, or low-volume roads, some on urban transportation, the market, what the market has for transportation, and so on and so forth. I remember once I was consulted on the Ayalolo problem in Accra. I gave them my candid views. Unfortunately, I was tagged as an anti-government. But if you see what has happened now, Ayalolo, if you know what has happened to Ayalolo, you can begin to appreciate where, or from the point from which I was operating.
Ayalolo is a public bus?
Public transport bus, but in Accra.
Okay.
The competition was very keen between them and our traditional trotros, to the extent that they are unable to operate.
Are your publications in high-impact journals?
Yes, they have to be. Otherwise, you are not recognized. Okay. So the more reassuring thing is that once you mention your name, somebody says, so you are the person. I say, yes. Okay. How come? Then they will tell you that I read your article and so on and so forth. Okay. So that is very refreshing.
Okay. Who are you mentoring in the academic circles?
Well, that's also a very useful question. For now, I've mentored 3 directly. I'm talking about at the PhD level.
Okay.
One of them, incidentally, is now my head of department.
Wow.
And we get on very well.
Okay.
In addition, since I've been back, I think I've graduated about 5 or 6 PhDs. The most recent one was 2 weeks ago. He was working on Galamsey, the coexistence between agric and small-scale mining and Nachimabwakwa.
Okay.
And there's one who will be graduating very, very soon. She's also working on the adaptive capacities of small-scale farmers in the northern Tolonkombongo district to climate change. Okay, so these are the areas that I've been involved in. I've said that I need to retire, so after this one, perhaps the next one, and that's the end. I'm not going beyond that because it's a lot of work.
Professors don't retire.
This one will retire.
Professors keep writing.
No, but this one will retire. You'll see me, I'll go and become a poultry farmer.
Professor, I know you will not become you will become a poultry farmer.
I hear you.
I believe you'll be writing fables for your grandchildren.
I hear you. I hear you.
Okay, so in your leisure time, what do you do?
Well, in leisure time, well, it's been reduced substantially.
Okay.
But in leisure time, I have grandkids. I need to look at them, play around with them. I need to fix a few things in the house, around the house. And then if there's any program I want to attend, we'll go and attend it together.
Okay. So what about your special meals or your games that you think at this age you are so comfortable to engage yourself in?
Games, they'll tell you it's not advisable now.
Okay.
But if you're talking about passive, I watch the EPL, I watch everything, including wrestling and so on. I watch all those funny things.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Viewers have been talking to Professor Kwasi Kwafo Adarkwa, former Vice Chancellor of Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. And I keep saying every time, good conversations never end. If we have to continue talking, we'll talk and talk and talk till thy kingdom come. But Prof, before we wrap up on this very engaging encounter, can you give us your very final words for people who indirectly you are mentoring but don't know, to know who the real Professor Adarkwa is and what legacy you want to leave for them?
Okay, I'm happy about this question because, as you rightly said, there are a number of them that I may not know. I remember there's a young man now at the Minnesota State University. He came and told me he wanted to be like me. I said, hey, you know what you're calling for? But I'm sure there are a number of them like that. Yeah. My final words are that for those who are either directly or indirectly mentoring, what I'll say to them is that they should continue their hard work. They should also be as humble as possible. And humility and hard work will take them to greater heights. And as I've said, God is indeed their guide. They should be serving as their guide.
Okay, with these very humble words from Professor Adarkwa, we have come to the end of this encounter on AAU Impact Stories, titled Celebrating Academic Mentors. Stay tuned in for other programs on AAU TV. Take care. See you next time. Bye.